Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on The Weekend Show. The judiciary is usually referred to as the last line of hope in the country and for the people. We experienced elections in February to March in 2023, and we had a lot of results which were contested in the courts, from the presidential elections to the state governorship elections. In the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot of judicial decisions at the Supreme Court level. How do we feel about them? What are our thoughts? Are people now happy? Is it time to move on? Or does this bring more light to the judiciary and questions? Joining us to have this conversation, we have
Honorable Idris Cargo, who's the national team lead at Tiku Youth Wing. Good morning. Happy New Year and welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We also have joining us Prince Kennedy Ahanutu, who's the national youth leader, Labour Party. Good morning.
See you again.
Good to see you too. And we have finally joining us Judgement Anthony, who's a legal practitioner, principal partner at Judgement and Associates. Good morning and welcome on the show.
Thank you.
We'll start with you. We've seen lots of decisions so far. One of which stood out for me was the question about citizenship, especially in the Lagos State elections, where in the past we've been told that you cannot have multiple citizenship to run for certain positions. But now the Supreme Court has said, oh, this is not a problem as long as you're a Nigerian. And some people have said this makes people question the Constitution or some of these changes. We'll hear from you because you're a lawyer, so I think we should start from you. How does some of these decisions affect the precedents which are being set?
Okay, in law, basically we have the statute books, and the Constitution is the ground norm of the Nigerian law. And having said that, this statute has subject to interpretations, judicial interpretation by the various courts. And in the line of in the precedents, as you have mentioned, the Supreme Court is the final. They give the interpretation, and that becomes a precedent. This is coupled with a lot of facts. It's not just a straitjacket, this thing. Yes, it's the Constitution that you can hold certain public offices, the governorship, the president, if you have acquired the citizenship of another country. But also part of those provisions to specify how you become a citizen of a country. So if the Supreme Court has interpreted a particular section, that's final. And that's what becomes the law. It has become a precedent for other courts to follow.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear your general thoughts about the rulings so far and the ones you agree with or disagree with so far.
First of all, I totally disagree because I'm glad he's a lawyer and he has just cleared something to us. And he said that whatever the Supreme Court pass a judgment on and become a law. We have a certain precedents who have dual citizenship. So now it is clear he is not going to run 2027 because if he did, or if he's going to do it, it means that the judiciary is not independent. Or whatever the Supreme Court passes is not final, or does not become law. So thanks to you, and then we all know that. Are we going to hold that very much in place to see? You know, one of the biggest problems, it started from INEC. INEC is the biggest problem, whether we like it or not. If they have run a free and fair, credible election, you wouldn't be even going to court. This same INEC said that, okay, from your own comfort zone, you're going to be seeing results via the Arab and everything. Unfortunately, they changed everything. So lots of politicians feel like, okay, something is wrong. That's why you see we have hundreds of cases after election. Why? So INEC must sit up, else it's going to put this country in chaos one day. Judiciary, on the other hand, is one of the biggest problems as well. They are not independent. We have seen so many cases, let me even say 99.999%, those in power always get away with good judgment. You know, politics, it's all about people. But judiciary is making it more complicated. It makes you feel like, okay, if you are in power, if you are rich, you will get it all the way you want it. And that's not how it's supposed to be. These same judges, I don't even understand if they understand the feeling of integrity. Because I really don't understand. But time keeps going. We're going to keep all these things as evidence because we have lots of evidence. It says most of all this now on internet. We're going to bring it back 2027 and then we're going to show it up and see, okay, are they going to change the constitution because of this? Or are they going to change or reverse the judgments? Because, you know, we have so many cases. And our presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, we have the one of Chicago. We have the one also of dual citizenship. And also we have for the vice presidents who have a dual nomination. He's a vice president, yet he was still also the candidate for his senatorial seats. So all these things, you get to see that way, you get to understand that, okay, it means judiciary is not independent. They do only what those in power want them to do. Or in the other way, they make things more complicated for the people to even lost or lose confidence in the judiciary. This is one of our biggest problems.
Okay, so Prince Kennedy, I would like to come to you, but before I do that, I would like a legal practitioner. You know, I saw your reactions when Honorable Idris was speaking. Is the judiciary independent? No, I would like a yes or no answer. Is the judiciary independent?
Yes.
It's independent?
Yes, I'm not part
So the executive has no, you know?
I'm not part of the judiciary. I'm a private practitioner. But outside election petitions, even when you bring it to regular litigation, I actually feel for the judiciary. When a decision favors a party, the judiciary is the best. When it doesn't favor them, the judiciary is not independent. They are corrupt. When you look at all the players in this last elections, those who are crying today, they have been beneficiaries of judgment in the past. At that time, there was no judiciary. From 1999 up to 2015, the president we have today, President Bola Tinubu, almost had no confidence in the judiciary. Would always label the judiciary as corrupt. But today, he's enjoying the benefits of the same judiciary. And this is how it works. The election matters are full of emotions and sentiments. No court from the tribunals up to the Supreme Court would rely on evidence. You bring your evidence. The law as it is, the Electoral Act, makes it very clear that it's impossible not to have irregularities in elections. They're human affairs. But how substantial are these irregularities you are alleging? It is your job to prove. It must be such that it must be overwhelming, substantial non-compliance for you to say for an election to either be invalidated or otherwise. So most times when we say, sometimes a lot of us lawyers contribute to this labeling of the judiciary as being corrupt. Most times we take on briefs and give unrealistic assurance to clients. And when this fails, who do we call? Rather than face this thing is, you say the judiciary is corrupt. There are several things when you feel, there are steps you need to take when you feel there is corruption. Take on the judges. You don't just say, this judge is corrupt. You have to prove your facts. And then they are appellate courts. The next stage, go to the next stage, present your case. And the principle of law is there must be an end to litigation. You have the opportunity to participate in an election. You have brought your petitions and your evidence to the tribunals all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has heard what it is. All parties must just move on and look at 2027.
All right, Prince Kennedy, I would like you to join the conversation. What were your thoughts in general of the Supreme Court ruling, seeing as a good number of them were thrown out, for no merit and no substantial evidence?
Thank you. Well, for me, I want to say that judiciary is supposed to be the conscience of the democratic government that we are running in Nigeria. If you look at the plethora of judgments that we've had in this country, I wonder what my generation will be learning or will interpret in the future. For example, I'm not even mentioning what happened in this general election. I cannot imagine that a governor, sitting governor from Imo State, who came distant fourth in an election, till today, Supreme Court have refused to give, it's not in their law report, why they give that judgment. And Supreme Court is final. Somebody that got fourth in an election, that never campaigned, and you are announcing the governor of the state. Secondly, how will my generation interpret that the Electoral Act said that you cannot run two elections in one election year? How will my generation interpret that Akpabio, who is the current Senate president, ran for presidential election and he is now the Senate president? How will my generation interpret that Senator Lawan, who ran for presidential election, is sitting in the Senate today
And lost his primary.
and lost primary election? These are judgments of the Supreme Court. How will my generation interpret this? How are the youths of this country see the Supreme Court? For me, the Supreme Court have been bastardized. And it's worrisome because I am feeling strongly that the labors of our heroes past are gradually becoming in vain. Because when they introduce us to democracy, which is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, they never said it's government of the court, by the court, and for the court. Initially, I have this intention of maybe going older in my life, I will go and read law. But do you know that Justice 2023 have cleared my enthusiasm of becoming a lawyer? Because I feel that law, which does with logic, is something that must look at the moral. He said emotion. Emotion. I was in court in one of the sittings where a senior advocate of Nigeria said to my lord, I came on bended knees. And you are talking to a woman, presume that her eyes are closed, tightened, closed, holding a balance. He doesn't know where it's going to go. But you are telling the judge, my lord, I am coming on bended knees. Those are the people that represented our president, that I'm coming on bended knees. On bended, which means somewhere, somehow, the eye of that woman have been opened for her to now see that somebody is coming on bended knees. And my lawyer here is telling me law is not done emotion. That emotion is playing out on daily basis in our courts. That day, I was crying because I've never heard that you come to court, you don't have any evidence to prove your case, you are coming on bended knees. That is Supreme Court judgment. And Supreme Court will endorse some of... this morning, as I woke up around 4, I was reading through the Electoral Act, reading through our Constitution. And there is something that caught my attention. The Constitution mentioned the 36 states of the country and gave a status to a federal capital territory. And you declared an election where the guideline of the INEC was not followed, and INEC guideline is an offshoot of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because INEC took reference to the Constitution in terms of qualification that my friend here mentioned, in terms of compliance, in terms of, look at the judgment. So, okay, for example, there are qualification judgments that were given in the appeal court on National Assembly members, but in the Supreme Court, they were not allowing those National Assembly members to come to Supreme Court. Maybe if they had come to Supreme Court will also give them victory. But they were cut off from appeal using qualification. But the same qualification at the Supreme Court is being used to reinstate a president.
You know, that's one of the most... So I have a lot of respect for the judiciary. I do have a lot of respect.
We are
for
losing
the
that
judiciary.
respect. Personally, I'm starting
as
losing it.
a non-lawyer, this confused me a lot. And unfortunately, your party was a loser and a beneficiary from it, Plateau State, where at the state level, the State House of Assembly and those in reps from the PDP were all removed because of how the primaries was conducted. Which, if they were going by that, at the Supreme Court, the same
Judgment.
faction that had the primaries for the governor, if they were going by those two, the governor would have been kicked out.
Yes.
But at the Supreme Court level, the governor's victory was reaffirmed,
Yes.
which now makes all of those from the State House and the National Assembly to feel cheated.
Yes.
What's your take on that? Because like he said, these people can't go to the Supreme Court because there are steps at the appeal court. But they were told, oh, your primaries were not handled well according to law, and so you guys have to vacate, that's it. But for the governor, it remained because what the court said is the primaries is the party's business. So this makes me worried about precedents once again. But what's your take? Then we would also hear how you think about it as a lawyer. But Honorable Idris.
When you exchange hands, there are different kind of exchanging hands. There's the one that you will shake and say, hello, hello, how are you? And then we have the one that you will shake hands and then you put something behind you or inside the pockets. I still don't understand when you say that it's all about emotion and then the judiciary is independent of a thing. Then tell me why. Why do we have different judgment between the Supreme Court, Appeal Court, and the Tribunal? So I don't understand. So are they telling us that even the judges do make mistakes? Because it is clear. We have so many cases whereby you won the tribunal, you lose at the appeal court, and then you won at the Supreme Court. So what is happening? If it is judiciary, they're supposed to work line in line. So I don't understand all that. So you see, in that aspect, we need to make so many changes. And just like my brother said, it's a government by the people, for the people, and we need to make it clear. If it is so, then maybe I think we should stop running for any election. Let's just go to court and decide. Let the judiciary just decide, hey, you are this, or you are that. Because it looks like what the people actually vote for is not what they are getting. Or the people will end up electing somebody they really like or love. And then judiciary, because you exchange too many hands, it changes. Just like what my brother also said, that the senior advocate of Nigeria came and said, like, I came with a bended knees. So I don't understand. For me, I have lost interest in judiciary. I have, totally. And that's my own belief, that's my own take. And then most of our politicians now fear even the judiciary more than the elections. So why is it so? You hear some of them are saying, well, let me reserve so this for so time. Let me reserve this so for judiciary of a thing. So I still don't get it. And this issue of the judiciary changing things the way they like, we need to be careful because people are watching. And the masses are getting angry on a daily basis. We need to be careful about all these things. If somebody won an election, let it be that way. If he or she loses, so be it. And also, INEC need to stand up. And I still don't get and don't understand why is the INEC judges, no, not even chairman, the INEC lawyers, and those who won election always working hand in hand.
That conversation has come up, but let's hear your take, especially like I said with Plateau State.
Okay, started from 99, the Constitution has been amended severally as it relates to election petitions. And the National Assembly election and the State House of Assembly stops at the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
Just like the president begins at the Court of Appeal and terminates at the Supreme Court. Only the governorship goes through 3 stages. So, like you said, yes, there are conflicts between some decisions of the Court of Appeal with the decisions on these subject matters at the Supreme Court. What that means, first of all, there are hierarchy of courts. For the Supreme Court does not try matters. What the Supreme Court does is appeal. They evaluate the decisions based on the grievance of the party appealing from the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal for the election tribunals also don't try matters. They evaluate. It's only at the presidency that the Court of Appeal becomes a trial court. So, and the hierarchy of it is such that the Supreme Court is the highest. And given this conflict as it stands, the standing position is the decision by the Supreme Court. So going forward, the other courts, the Courts of Appeal, as it relates to state elections, state houses of assembly and the National Assembly, will be bound by the decision of the Supreme Court. And some of these things are not just judiciary things. We observe things. You're all politicians. You have your own members in the Senate, in the National Assembly. We must bring what we feel had become shortcomings from these judgments, with perceived shortcomings. We bring them up as bills to amend our Constitution. And what the judiciary basically do is interpret these various laws. He mentioned something about he mentioned something about a candidate who is being, if you remember, a candidate who is being disqualified
By the tribunal.
by the tribunal.
And then later on, again, this, he won the appeal court.
Yes, because you have these channels to ventilate. The decision of the tribunal is subject to evaluation by the Court of Appeal if the other parties appeal. And if the Supreme Court, you will have cases like in Rivers State, Wike lost in 2015, lost at the election tribunal, lost at the Court of Appeal, but still won in the Supreme Court. So until you expire all of that, it's not over.
So if I get you right, it means if we can have something above the Supreme Court, they can also change.
No, the Supreme Court does not. The Supreme Court or the tribunals, any of the court, does not make law. What they do, they interpret.
Does the appeal court judges make mistake? Is it a mistake?
Judges make mistakes. They are humans.
Exactly. So the people are now suffering.
And for that reason,
They are mistakes.
No. Okay, so for what it is.
So it means the Supreme Court
the-
judges also make mistake.
Yes.
All right.
Supreme Court judges can make mistakes, but they are final. There must be an end to litigation.
Do you think that's
for
problematic?
For what we have, if you look at the sequence of trials, starting from the electoral tribunals, you have 3 judges. And that is why for every appeal, you will not have the same number of judges sitting on an appeal. 3 at that level. At the Court of Appeal, they become 5. And decisions are either unanimous, that is when all the judges agree with a point, or they are split where they are majority decision. Sometimes 2-3 or 4-1. So that is why we have the numbers. The law is not perfect, just like humans, they make mistakes. And whatever mistakes we think has been made, we should correct them by ways of amending our laws. The judges will not make laws.
But what happens when, because of time, I need to reel this in. What happens when the lawmakers you're talking about were brought into the system based on these errors? They wouldn't push to rectify the act when they are beneficiaries of it. Two good examples, like I say, is Plateau State and Nasarawa State, where from indications there was some miscarriage somewhere or the other. In most cases, what I've seen with this decision is INEC has been blamed. INEC is the scapegoat and say, oh, INEC did not bring evidence, so it's on INEC. Next time, make INEC bring this. When we saw how long it took INEC to submit evidence in most cases.
In presidential election, INEC has to be subpoenaed. That was my first time of hearing Supreme
Exactly.
in a law court.
You've also,
INEC has to be forced to come and bring their own document they used to conduct elections.
You've also
Is it not
So
a crime
unfortunate.
to us?
You've
to my
also seen
generation?
cases where some opposing lawyers have said that it seems the judges are even raising objections on behalf of some of the defendants and the like. So we have an institutional problem which we must fix. From INEC with all the gaps, and some people have come on this show to say they don't know why we still have the same chairman as chairman with all the gaps in the last election. Because like you've rightly said, a lot of the problems experienced in the last election was as a result of INEC.
Yes.
And so the courts are now bearing the brunt of it because INEC didn't do its work properly after being given over 350 billion for that election. But I'll let Didi ask Kingsley the final question because of time.
Just before we go, Prince Kennedy, I would like to know, how do we move forward with our electoral processes without having to go to the court to appeal?
Well, I said it from the beginning, that democracy that we are practicing is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Let the people decide who governs them. For example, how can somebody win 9 out of 13 local government? I'm using the Plateau, for example, and he's already leading clearly. And you use one local government to obtain the victory. It's funny. I can't explain it. And you go to Supreme Court. For example, like Imo case I mentioned, Enugu is also there. You didn't mention it.
Yes,
Enugu, you have out of 8 rep members, 8 goes to one political party. Out of 3 senators, 2 went to one political party. Out of 24 local government, 14 went to one political party. And then you came to governorship. You took it, came to Abuja. It also almost happened in Abia, if not for the bravery of a professor, that woman. May God bless her, because she represented what standing, being an INEC official should be. Neutrality. But these guys are not interested. So my suggestion and my advice for these people in government is, one, let us forget about what has happened and now consolidate on building this democracy by building institutions that will last above every individual. If I am the president, ordinarily people would like to favor me. INEC would like to favor me. Institutions would like to favor me. Look at governors thanking Bola Tinubu for their victory at the Supreme Court. Does it not mean that Bola Tinubu is the one that opened the eyes of the woman? Is that the implication? In the US, in the UK, that practice democracy also, you don't thank an individual for an institutional process. You don't.
Thank you. Let's hear your final words. 30 seconds.
For it to be the way forward,
Yeah.
strengthen our laws, but it's totally impossible to have the judiciary out of the equation. Because for you to say you don't, like you said, how we do not go to the courts. Because elections, with the way they are, even in these most civilized countries, will bring conflicts. When there are these conflicts, how do these conflicts get resolved? My hopes are that the processes leading to judicial decisions should be clearer to the people, because some of the displeasure being expressed against the judiciary are born largely out of, sorry to say, out of ignorance of the law. Most of our educated elites are ignorant of the law. So it will not be out of place that this process are clearer, but the judiciary cannot be out of it.
Thank you, Idris.
Judiciary lies. You can lie like, I don't know. You know, like what happened in Kebbi State, it's so unfortunate, whereby a principal of a school was present in the court, declared that the deputy governor in Kebbi State was not one of his students.
Okay.
And yet, the judges
Swallowed it.
not only swallow, they opened their eyes and they rebalance. still it happens also at the Supreme Court. So where is the trust between the people and the judiciary? There's no more trust. And thanks to my brother here, we have gotten it right now that the Supreme Courts do make mistakes. They are humans, that's good. And I don't see this present... I don't see this present government correcting things because they are the beneficiary of all these errors.
Yeah.
So they are not going to rectify it. So it's left for the people to come together, push for this government to do the right thing, whether they like it or not, unless if they are not governing the people. So we should get it clear. Also, we, the PDP, we will do all it takes to make sure that all these things are put in place. And in 2027, we are going to win the presidential election. It is PDP Emil Lockhart. We have a sitting president who said it is Emil Lockhart before the time, and he forced himself in. So PDP are going to win the 2027 presidential election, and you can all take us to court.
I think that's a good place. I think that's a
the
good
Labour
place
Party
to
have already commissioned a committee to champion a holistic approach to this electoral reform. So we have great men in this country that we are inaugurating maybe in the next 2 weeks to take up elections, electoral act, and review it and push it to the National Assembly.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think that's a great place to leave it. We will continue this conversation as the conversation unfolds. That's much we can take on the political segment. We'll take a quick break. When we return, I'll be having a conversation with Ayo Adams reporting live from the AFCON competition. Don't go away. See you after this break.